What if you designed your own learning? What would it look like? What would it sound like? Would it look like this? Or maybe would it look like this? Spend just a minute and reflect on your ideal learning environment. Click on the link below and go to the Google form to complete it. The first question asks you to describe your ideal learning environment using sensory images. Make a list. The second question asks you to describe your current learning environment using sensory images. Make another list. The last question asks you to write and reflect about the two. Compare them. How are they different? How are they the same? What did you learn from those comparisons about an ideal learning space? For me, an ideal learning space is active and it's engaging. There's noise, there's interaction, there's collaboration, constant communication. You see leaders. You see dreams. Mistakes are okay. There's variety. No one student is doing the same thing. No one student is learning in the same way. When I think about my current learning environment, and when I talk to students about their current learning environments, they use words like sleepy, lonely, long, a total waste of time, teachers constantly talking. Watching movies, spending all of their time listening and taking notes, studying for tests and then forgetting everything after the fact. Ultimately, it's boring. There's a huge gap between how we want to learn and how we actually learn. And the motivation behind this teaching technique is bridging the two so that we are learning in ways that are engaging and meaningful and providing tools that will ultimately help students be successful in the future. So the question becomes, how do we do this? One way to accomplish this is using a technique called project-based learning. Traditionally, project-based learning is known as a teaching method where students gain knowledge and skills by working for an extended period of time to investigate and respond to a complex question, problem, or challenge. At its core, the project's focused on teaching students important knowledge and skills derived from standards and key concepts at the heart of their academic subjects. Students build competencies valuable for today's world, such as problem solving, critical thinking, collaboration, communication, and creativity and innovation, which are explicitly taught and assessed. They are engaged in an extended, rigorous process of asking questions, using resources, and developing answers. Project work is focused by an open-ended question that students understand and find intriguing, which captures their task or frames their exploration. Students need to see the need to gain knowledge, understand concepts, and apply skills in order to answer the driving question and create project products, beginning with an entry event that generates interest and curiosity. They are allowed to make some choices about the products to be created, how they work, and how they use their time, guided by the teacher, who we now call a facilitator. The project includes processes for students to give and receive feedback on the quality of their work, leading them to make revisions or conduct further inquiry. And finally, they present their work to other people, beyond their classmates and their teachers. The bottom line is, today's students, more than ever, find school to be boring and meaningless. Using project-based learning, students are active, they're not passive. A project engages their hearts and minds and provides real-world, relevant learning. When they complete a project, students remember what they've learned and they retain it longer than traditional instruction. The result is students who gain content knowledge through this experience are better able to apply what they know and can now apply it to new situations. In the 21st century workplace, success requires more than basic knowledge and skills. Students need to not only understand content more deeply, but also learn how to take responsibility and build confidence, solve problems, work collaboratively, communicate ideas, and be creative innovators. The Common Core and other present-day standards emphasize real-world application of knowledge and skills, and the development of the 21st century competencies such as critical thinking, communication in a variety of media, and collaboration. This provides an effective way to address these standards. And with modern technology students use so much in their lives, it's a perfect fit. With the technology, teachers and students connect with experts, partners, and audiences around the world. They use tools to find resources and information, create products, and collaborate more effectively. It allows teachers to work closely with active, engaged students doing high-quality, meaningful work, and in many cases, rediscover the joy of learning alongside their students. For Olathe Northwest and the e-communication, it's all about project-based learning. Our mission statement says, providing a platform for learners to communicate, collaborate, innovate, and design. Students learn to communicate. They learn to listen to a client, share ideas with a team, exchange constructive feedback, and impress a target audience with a story. They collaborate. They work with peers of varying skill sets, interests, and personalities toward a common goal, and they maximize their effectiveness in team situations. They innovate. They develop unique perspectives and solutions. They learn what's in the box, and then they're able to think outside the box. And they design. They use creative, technical, collaborative, and communication skills to invent digital solutions for a client's needs. Every good project must fulfill 2 criteria. First, students must perceive it as personally meaningful, as a task that matters and that they want to do well on. Second, a meaningful project fulfills an educational purpose. Well-designed and well-implemented project-based learning is meaningful in both ways. Project-based learning is sometimes mistakenly believed, based on old stereotypes, to be an ineffective vehicle for teaching content. But while it is true that a teacher cannot cover, which isn't after all the same as teach, as much material in a project as he or she might through lectures, worksheets, and textbooks, students in a well-designed project understand the content more deeply. If keeping someone's attention in a lecture was business, it would have an 80% failure rate. I think that's a good enough statistic to believe that there's reason to use project-based learning. It is important, however, that teachers plan a project focusing on important knowledge and concept derived from standards. The content should reflect what the teacher knows is essential and understands about the topic, and students should find the content to be significant in terms of their own lives and their own interests. Teachers can powerfully activate students' need-to-know content by launching a project with an entry event, engaging students' interests, and initiating questioning. This entry event can be almost anything: a video, a lively discussion, a guest speaker, a field trip, or a piece of mock correspondence setting up a scenario. Many students find work meaningless because they don't perceive a need to know what they are being taught. They are unmotivated by the teacher's suggestion they should learn something because they'll need it later in life, or for the next course, or simply because it's going to be on the next test. With a compelling student project, the reason for learning relevant material becomes clear. I need to know this to meet the challenge I've accepted, and I need to know it because, honestly, I just want to know it. Let me give you an example. I teach a course called Entertainment Essentials. In this course, students create videos of all kinds, usually for clients based outside of the school building. From time to time, we do projects within the building. One year, I brought the challenge to my students, the need for a new promotional video for our program. They embraced the challenge as an opportunity to not only express their technical and storytelling skills, but a way to truly be invested in the program they were committed to. In project-based learning, after the challenge is identified, there's usually a driving question. A driving question captures the heart of the project in clear and compelling language. For the students in Entertainment Essentials, the driving question was, how could we express an e-communication mission visually that would attract future students? Composed in a good format, this question was provocative, open-ended, complex, and ultimately linked to the core of what students needed to learn. A project without a driving question is like an essay without a thesis. Without the thesis statement, the reader might be able to pick out the main point a writer is trying to make. But with a thesis statement, the main point is unmistakable. Without a driving question, students may not understand why they need to tackle such a complex project. They know the series of assigned activities has some connection with a time, period, place, or concept, but if you ask them what the point of all these activities were, they most likely would say, because we're making a poster, because we're making a video. We want students to be able to communicate because we need to create a promotional piece to attract students to the program and share our ideas and events visually. The element of student-based choice to project learning is essential. In terms of making a project feel meaningful to students, the more voice and choice, the better. Teachers should design projects with the extent of student choice that fits their own style and their students. With a limited choice end of the scale, learners can select what topic to study within a general driving question, or choose how to design, create, and present products. As a middle ground, teachers might provide a limited menu of options for creating projects to prevent students from becoming overwhelmed by choices. On the more the better end of the scale, students can decide what product they will create, what resources they will use, and how they will structure their time. Students could even choose a project's topic and driving question. When it comes to working for clients, the spectrum of choice varies drastically. In the instance of this e-communication promotional video, the choice was middle ground. They were specifically instructed to create a promotional video for the program, so the execution was their own, the creativity was their own, the story was their own, and yet the medium in which the information was going to be shared was very specific. It is impossible to work with a client without applying these 21st century skills. The client in the instance of the e-communication promotional video were the instructors for the program. They had specific agenda that they wanted to reach, and the students needed to meet with them on a regular basis to collaborate and communicate their ideas and expectations. Students find project work to be more meaningful if they are asked to conduct real inquiry, which does not mean finding information in books or websites and passing it onto a poster. In real inquiry, students follow a trail that begins with their own questions, leads to a search for resources and the discovery of answers, and which ultimately leads to generating new questions, testing ideas, and drawing to their own conclusions. With real inquiry comes innovation, a new answer to a driving question, a new product, and a new solution to a problem. The teacher does not ask students to simply reproduce teacher or textbook provided information in a pretty format. One of the biggest challenges in the e-communication project was to create an original product, but use research and information and inquiry to come up with new ways to do things that maybe were similarly done previously, but can be adapted and molded and told in a new way. Formalizing a process for critique and revision during a project makes learning meaningful because it emphasizes creating high-quality products and performances is an important purpose of an endeavor. Students need to learn that most people's first attempts don't result in high quality and that revision is a frequent feature of real-world work. However, in the instance of the e-communication promotional, students were going to be given 2 hours to execute this video. This required them to have extensive inquiry, pre-planning, and pre-production. The students in the e-communication program were not given opportunity in the production process of the video for any significant critique or revision. As a result, the pre-production process was a huge part of the overall video. It was at this phase that they received feedback and critique on their plans and their work and their ideas, and were given opportunity to have questions asked about the process so that the actual execution was perfect. The best part of a project-based learning assignment is not the project itself, but the reflection that follows. When students complete the project, they invite audiences, including parents, peers, representatives of the community, businesses, government organizations, their specific clients, and they answer questions and reflect on how they completed the project and the steps they might take for the future. They are asked questions about what they did well, what worked and why, what didn't work and why, and how they would do something different in the future to make the project even more successful. Project-based learning is a process. There really is no expert and there is never one answer. It's about seeking to improve in everything students do, finding newer, better, and often original ways to create. Students share what they learn with each other, and they take responsibility for what and how they learn. They are given options in content and responsible for the timeline, the deadline, and the outcome. As quoted in Lewis Carroll's Alice in Wonderland, the only way to achieve the impossible is to believe it is possible. Why? Sometimes I believed as many as 6 impossible things before breakfast. Project-based learning is about providing students with the opportunity to achieve the impossible. For more information on project-based learning, visit the Buck Institute for Education at bie.org. And to view more of student work created with project-based learning, visit the ONW Productions channel on YouTube.